The year 1977 began, and my life was filled with nothing but a growing burden of grief and hopelessness. I had aged, my skin sagged, and bags had formed under my eyes. I was tormented by severe headaches, liver pain, fever, and shortness of breath. I could barely eat, and dark spots appeared on my face and neck. I asked myself, why did I fall apart at the most crucial moment? What is destroying my body, making me sick and old? This is how the legendary Soviet weightlifter Yury Vlasov would often recall one of the most difficult stages of his life, more frequently than he would talk about his athletic victories. According to Olympic champion Yury Vlasov, by the age of 42, his health had deteriorated to the point where he could no longer live a normal life. At that time, he saw death as the only way out, a release from pain. But during those darkest days, Yury Vlasov had no idea that he would soon be able to restore his health and strength and find the answer to what was destroying and aging his body. Illness took my muscles and left me with little more than skin and bones. In the autumn of 1976, Yury Vlasov decided to go hunting. He planned to stay in a house where he had always found shelter, but this time the hostess refused to let him in. He had to spend the night in the forest. After that, he fell ill. His recovery stretched out for several months. In February 1977, I went skiing across a lake. At some point, the ice cracked beneath me, and I fell into the water in 20-degree frost. Not immediately, but I managed to pull myself out thanks to the strength of my arms. After that, I got sick again. Doctors prescribed me medications, but the cough, weakness, and malaise plagued me all spring. In June, I went out for a walk and got sick again. The entire summer passed in weakness and chills, Vlasov recalled, and so began the rounds of visiting doctors. Some recommended strict bed rest until full recovery. Others prescribed countless different medications, while still others could only shrug in confusion. Even in summer, Yury Vlasov had to wear a sweater and wrap his neck in a scarf. The slightest draft would trigger a fever again. In the fall, Vlasov began experiencing back pain, a pain that gave him no peace. He started adjusting to it, hunching his back and taking each step slowly and cautiously. The weakness continued to grow. Yury Vlasov recalled barely being able to move his feet, and he thought that all he could do now was to accept his fate and die with dignity. Illness took my muscles and left me with little more than skin and bones. I didn't even realize how weak I had become. Once, while I was in the hospital, a nurse asked me to lift myself up so she could change the sheet. "Come on now," she said. "But I did lift myself up," I replied. But then I caught her puzzled look and suddenly realized that my whole body was still lying on the bed. My strength had left me, Vlasov admitted bitterly. Spinal pain tormented him. He couldn't lie down or sit comfortably. Due to the weakness, pain, and dizziness, he had to move by leaning against the walls. Yury Vlasov couldn't bear to look at barbells, kettlebells, or dumbbells. He asked for them all to be removed from his house. He said he no longer believed in training. He was convinced that it was training that had destroyed him. What was the cause of this helplessness? Yury Vlasov decided to search for the answer in medical books written for doctors. He was sure he would find what he was looking for in them. But each new book disproved his theories. Vlasov kept picking up new ones, trying again to find salvation in them. But he didn't find it. From the book Formula of Courage, by autumn, all my illnesses rose up inside me like wild horses. I gasped for breath just from walking. My blood pounded in my head. Strange night fevers merged with the ones brought on by pneumonia. One bout of pneumonia followed another. I was worn out by stomach issues. I grew used to the pain in my heart and no longer feared it. My head ached and felt like it was swelling into a balloon. Every heartbeat echoed painfully inside it. No medication helped anymore. I sat for hours, clutching my head. The slightest movement brought pain. I had to endure it, endure and persevere. I began to realize one more wave of illness, and I would fall apart. Yury Vlasov's moment of clarity. For a while, I thought the reason for my suffering was an undiagnosed illness. Maybe it was tuberculosis. My mother had suffered from it for many years. Or maybe malaria was to blame. I had it in childhood. But none of these guesses were confirmed, and so I kept searching. Soon, I came to suspect that the root of my suffering was an exhausted nervous system and a lack of vital energy that would have helped me cope with all my ailments, Yury Vlasov shared. Still, this theory didn't provide a complete answer. He continued visiting doctors, hoping that one of them would perform a miracle. His illnesses had changed him so drastically that former teammates didn't even recognize him. Even he didn't recognize himself in the mirror. Vlasov began to despise himself. He called himself a pitiful man. One day, Yury Vlasov came across the medical history of the microbiologist Louis Pasteur. From it, he learned that at the age of 45, Pasteur had suffered a stroke. His speech was impaired and his left arm was paralyzed. In this condition, Pasteur began studying literature about the potential of the human brain. This led Pasteur to the idea that the desire to live and to heal helps a person overcome disease and its consequences. That belief helped him recover and live another 37 years in good health. During that time, Pasteur made several major scientific discoveries. After his death, an autopsy revealed that the left hemisphere of his brain had been destroyed. Later, I read the recovery story of writer Norman Cousins. At 25, doctors gave up on him. They told him that with his heart condition, he could only live another 2 years, and only if he led a sedentary lifestyle. At that time, Cousins adopted a personal motto: you must not panic and must take control of yourself, even when life's events appear grim. His will to live and positive emotions helped him live to 75. Reading stories like these, I realized that they held the key to overcoming my own illness, Vlasov said. The athlete reflected, at 42, I looked like a decrepit old man, but one moment of insight saved my life. That moment of insight was the realization that a weakened spirit is the cause of most illnesses. The human body gradually breaks down under the weight of a dark and despairing emotional state, which begins to dominate everything else. I realized that the connection between the spirit and the internal organs is close and direct. For the past 15 years, I had been living in a constant state of anxiety, irritation, and fear, accumulating toxins and exhaustion within myself. How can one not fall ill when living in perpetual fear and worry? All of this naturally affects the condition of the internal organs, their tone, their responses. As a result, the body falters and breaks down in many of its systems. What needs to change is the most important thing: one's attitude toward life, one's views on misfortune, suffering, and everything in general. When I understood this, I was seized by a feverish joy. It no longer mattered what specific illness I had. The answer was universal. The spirit must be placed above all else, and it would lead me out of the dead end. After this realization, Yury Vlasov made a promise to himself to hold on no matter what happened in his life. He began strictly monitoring the flow of his thoughts. He kept repeating to himself that he would regain his strength and his health. And even in the first weeks of such affirmations, Vlasov felt that his illnesses were gradually weakening and receding, but he also understood that to truly recover, he needed fresh air and movement. So, Yury Vlasov began to relearn how to walk. His first walks lasted no more than 10 minutes, short shuffles near the entrance of his building. He didn't yet have the strength for more. Each walk left him drenched in sweat, battling dizziness and shortness of breath. But he didn't give up, steadily increasing the length and distance of his walks. Vlasov persistently told himself that his body would recover. He created a personal mantra that protected him from doubt and the opinions of others. It went like this: "My body obeys my rules. My will is almighty. My faith in life is strong. I can do anything. I have no doubt in my abilities." Along with these affirmations, he said, I began gradually increasing my physical activity, drop by drop. Slowly, I reintroduced cycling, running, swimming, and training into my life. By the age of 46, I had achieved a level of physical performance that allowed me to handle any load. I had gradually forgotten about my illnesses. Now I know that willpower is stronger than any fate or diagnosis, and to recover and endure, one must first and foremost strengthen the spirit, Yury Vlasov concluded. How many more of these stories lie hidden in the depths of memory, at the edge of dreams, on the border between this world and the next? Each one is like a whisper from the past, an echo of something we're not yet able to explain. But if you feel like this is only the beginning, then you're already on the path. I'll tell you more. But everything in its time.